We have lots of news to talk about. For more discussion over ads in video games, a big name is leaving Xbox and a bunch of Game Pass announcements, plus more. So last week, the talk around the gaming industry was the news that Xbox and Microsoft were working on a new ad network to start putting ads into free-to-play games. Now, obviously, this was in the infancy. It hasn't started yet, but their main focus, like I said, was free-to-play games in order for developers to make money off of their free-to-play games, which will help them continue to make more games going forward, incentivize developers to make free-to-play games, and then put them up on to Xbox and through the Xbox store. In my opinion on this overall, we talked about this on the Plumecast last week, was for free-to-play games, I think it's an okay thing. I have no issues with a developer creating just a great free-to-play game for all of us to enjoy while still being able to make money off of something like an ad network, which will allow them to continue to make games going forward. Now, if they're going to start putting ads intrusively into games where you're paying full price, that's kind of where I draw the line, where I do not want to see that, especially if you're paying like $60, $70 for a game, and then you have to also sit through just advertisements that take away from the immersiveness of the environment that's been created. I do not want to see that, and I think that's a big thing that people were talking about last week, getting upset when hearing about the ad network, attributing it to this may make the games less immersive, they may be overbearing, but it's not really what it sounded like if you went through and read what Xbox was trying to do. And they were comparing that to Sony and PlayStation and their ad network if they were going to have one, since we haven't really seen anything about them working on an ad network, but it seems just like the natural progression forward within video games. When you see it in mobile, now you're seeing it come over to console when there's free to play stuff. There has to be a way for these developers to make money. And now we have this information that Sony is also working on plans to run ads in PlayStation games. So they say here, Sony's working on a plan to put ads inside PlayStation games, similar to a move by Microsoft to run ads in Xbox. 3 people who are involved in the plan said Sony is doing testing with ad tech partners to help developers create in-game ads through software developer programs. The idea behind this, like what Microsoft is saying, is to give developers the ability to make money off of their free-to-play games. But that part is all well and good. Where it gets a little bit iffy here is what they talk about lower down in this article, which is PlayStation's current inventory right now, where they are promoting games within their store. I mean, that's very normal. You can pay money to get features on the PlayStation store. They're also serving up ads on streaming videos when you're watching videos through their apps through PlayStation, like Hulu, which again is pretty normal. You see that on like YouTube, you see that on most streaming platforms that offer you free content, or even if it's not free content, even on like Netflix sometimes and Prime, when you load up a video, there's an ad for another program or another movie that is on that service. But this one specifically, besides that, they say is going to be launching at the end of 2022, but they're looking to put ads inside PlayStation games themselves to be sold via a private marketplace. Now that's where it's not completely sure if that means that these are going to be ads as well within these full price games. They continue on here saying the goal is for the ads to appear like they're part of the game, like digital billboards in sports stadiums. Formats could include ads that give viewers rewards for watching ads and promotions for in-game items like avatar skins. And that's, to me, where it gets a little bit iffy. When they mention here inside PlayStation games, again, it doesn't really fully distinguish. Does that mean only free-to-play PlayStation games, if there are going to be ones, or if these are going to be in the full $70 priced PlayStation games going forward, and they're going to be implementing ads where if you're driving down a street, you're going to see like a McDonald's ad or something on a billboard, which some people argue that increases immersion because it makes more realistic. But for me personally, not something I will want to see in a game that I'm paying full price for. And getting viewers to have to watch ads and promotions to get in-game items like avatar skins, definitely not something I want to see going forward. That's going to be very, very annoying if this is something that gets implemented into video games. We see that in some free-to-play games where, like, if you want some extra credits or a free roll or something, depending on what you're playing, you have to watch the ad. And it really does just take away from the overall enjoyment and experience of the game. Plus, I mean, the avatar skins that they're probably going to give away for something like this are not going to be very desirable avatar skins. But again, this is all just in the works. None of this is set in stone. This is just what these sources are saying as to what Sony is working on and it may not come to fruition. And they say here Sony hasn't decided if it would take a cut of the revenue. One said it's also considering charging developers and publishers for data on consumer activity on PlayStation. And Sony hasn't responded to a request for comments on any of this stuff, but it looks like they started on this about 18 months ago after the launch of the PlayStation 5 console. This is something that they've had in mind, another revenue stream, another way to get people into their network, to get developers who want to put games onto their platform. They say here they've been strict about vetting ad tech companies ruling out collections of personal information like emails or names. So there you have it. PlayStation as well is working on an ad network similar to Xbox. What I find hilarious was last week when this news came out about Xbox doing it, to sit back and think that other big corporations weren't going to go along those same lines. It's another stream that they can try to capitalize in order to get more value, get more content on to their platform. Even if they don't take revenue directly from this, it definitely gives them a lot of great data. It definitely incentivizes more developers to want to put their games on those platforms. But all in all, ads in general within free-to-play games, completely fine. Ads in full price games, not something I want to see. And I definitely don't want to see you being forced to look at advertisements in order to get in-game content if you are playing a game where you've already paid money for it. And this is where it's all going. This is where the future is going. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. I think this is leaning more towards the bad side of things, the more intrusive side of things, especially when we get into things like the metaverse. Probably going to be cooked right into there with ads everywhere, trying to get you to buy a new thing, trying to get you to buy a new digital asset, a new digital clothing for your avatar and stuff like that. So I don't know how I feel about that going forward, but we'll have to wait and see how it all works out. And hopefully Microsoft, hopefully Sony don't become too predatory with this type of stuff. All right, jumping over here to an announcement I think will have a lot of people excited, and that is that the Shadowrun trilogy is going to be making its way onto Xbox Game Pass in June of 2022. So those three games are going to be Shadowrun Returns, Shadowrun Hong Kong, and Shadowrun Dragonfall. Now these games are from Paradox Interactive. They are RPGs. They have that like isometric view with your characters. They are set in a cyberpunk world. They say here, the Shadowrun games have quite a unique tone, mixing high-tech atmosphere with mysterious cults and fantastical powers. And from watching the trailer, from not really knowing too much about this series, I've never actually played the Shadowrun series, looks like it would be very, very cool. Sort of kind of reminds me of The Ascent in the atmosphere with the cyberpunk style of things, but it definitely seems like a deeper RPG with some of the narrative elements to it, some of the selections of your dialogue and stuff like that. But very, very cool that they are bringing the Shadowrun trilogy out for a console edition. It's going to be out on all platforms, but I guess the big advantage here is that it is going to be coming to Xbox Game Pass. So that's 3 games in one. 3, I think, very cool looking RPGs. If you're into this style of stuff and you haven't tried them out, such as myself, this would be something to be excited about. Or if you're a Shadowrun fan, now you're going to be able to check these all out in June. And that isn't the only thing in terms of Game Pass. There have been a bunch of other indies that are getting confirmed that have been previously announced. And there is a list of just great Game Pass games coming over in May themselves. So we have Loot River. This is a game that we saw the ID at Xbox. Looks very, very cool. Trek to Yomi. This is one that I'm extremely excited about. It kind of has a 2D platformer, side-scrolling Ghost of Tsushima vibe to it. Looks like a ton of fun. Citizen Sleeper, Iodine Chronicles Rising, Herd Space Shipbreaker, Sniper Elite 5. That's a pretty big name game that we know is coming over in May, and Pac-Man Museum Plus. So these are all day one games coming over to Xbox Game Pass in May that we know of right now. And they're probably, I mean, I'm sure there will be more announcements of games that when we get the 2 monthly announcements for the Game Pass months. But already stuff in May that I'm really looking forward to. Even Iodine Chronicles Rising is one that I'm quite interested in. And hey, it's always fun to sit down and play some Pac-Man if you want to just pass a couple of minutes, try to beat your high score. And then Sniper Elite 5, what more can you say about that? If you're a Sniper Elite fan, this is the brand new day one version of it that we're going to be getting on May 26th. And when it comes to Game Pass and Xbox Game Studios, there has been a little bit of confusing news coming out today about Bethesda's Redfall that's apparently been delayed until winter 2022. But we're past winter 2022, so that makes absolutely no sense. We know that it is scheduled for a summer release, and there has been a big confusion on Twitter about Redfall, and all stems from an initial tweet where it's showing that Redfall is going to be coming out in winter 2022, showing up on Brazil's Xbox page. And the big confusion here is that in Brazil, winter is summer and summer is winter. It's reversed. So right now, Brazil is going into their winter, and we're going here in North America into our summer. So it makes sense right now. At the end of the day, if you keep seeing articles about Redfall being delayed or anything like that, I don't think it's officially been delayed yet. What I think is it's just getting confused with the different hemispheres and the different seasons. And Redfall right now, as we know of, because we haven't heard anything else yet, is still scheduled for a summer 2022 release. Okay, jumping here to some big news surrounding Xbox, and it has to do with an Xbox designer behind the achievements. Chris Novak is leaving Xbox after 20 years. So Chris Novak began as an Xbox designer director in 2002 before becoming the design architect in 2009, and then finally became the head of research and design in 2016. And we know 2016, I would say the year before the beginning of this brand new Xbox that we have, because 2017 with the launch of the One X and Game Pass and all that type of stuff was huge. But 2016, all of that was definitely deeply in the works when he was the head of research and design. And it's when the company just refocused on video games and giving gamers just a great console where you get a lot of value, and it's focused on playing as many games as you can, as many games as you want, wherever you want, with the launch of Xbox One X and Xbox Game Pass. But Chris Novak had a big role to play in that, and he's leaving after nearly 20 years, he says here, to refocus his life, specifically saying some of the things that are coming up for Xbox, which are tremendously exciting, will be committing to years of work there. So that's a hint that Xbox is just beginning with changing, I guess, the industry and giving us a bunch of future thinking things, what they've already done with cloud gaming, with Game Pass, with Play Anywhere, with all the backwards compatibility enhancements, all that type of stuff. Continuing saying it would be amazing, but do I want to commit to that, or do I want to acknowledge that I'm happy with what we have shipped? And he was a big part of the achievement system, which I think is one of the best things that Xbox has ever done, that has brought to the gaming industry. And we've seen it spread out across the industry. We've seen it spread out across PC, PlayStation. Unfortunately, Nintendo still hasn't jumped on board. Who knows when they're going to be doing that? But I'm assuming at some point they will. I think they should. And it's just something that we didn't have. And Chris Novak really played a part in bringing that to life. He says here that includes the achievement system that Novak said reinforced Microsoft's philosophy that players should be able to play however they want. We've seen that expand to everything that they're doing today. In fact, when it comes to Xbox Live, they were originally going to launch it with 5 achievements per game, but then they realized that specifically with Project Gotham Racing 2, people wanted to play the game to race and to win and to just always be the best racer out there. But then there are also people out there that just like driving around and taking cool photos. And you can kind of see how that translates to today with a game like Forza Horizon 5. Myself personally, I love driving around. I love doing the races. I love achieving something every time I jump into the game. But there are people out there that just love to sit back and play that game casually, which you can completely do. Find a cool spot, take a cool picture of their car. And all of this was in part of the works of Chris Novak in getting achievements to appeal to all different types of gamers. He continues on here to talk about the Microsoft Touch Adaptation Kit, which has allowed games to work on mobile, very important for cloud gaming and getting people to be able to sign up to the Xbox Game Pass and then be able to play it on their phone if they don't have a controller with them, which I think is actually a very cool move. Not my cup of tea. I don't really like playing games with touch controls whatsoever, but I think it's great that they're giving people that option. If they're just out, not everyone's going to be able to carry a controller with them. Not everyone wants to have a big attachment to their phone, but they're still able to play lots of games just by touching their screen. And there are some games that work very, very well with touch controls. He says here, we spent a huge amount of time as part of the xCloud effort with the xCloud engineers, chasing that down and making sure that all the technology allowed us to render this output to any device. So very cool there that he was a big part of that. Continues on here to say it's very easy to build things which are new, but not better, and most people want their gaming experience to be comfortable and familiar and fast. It should be connecting them to the thing they want as fast as possible, and anytime you do something new, you might be asking them to use a different button or to think about a different flow, and they might be frustrated with that. Getting that balance is a continuous challenge. And as the head of research and design, that is extremely important to make sure that when you're launching something, users are going to be able to figure it out and use it easily, especially when you're launching games across multiple devices. When you're jumping from a phone, you're jumping to your console, you're holding a controller, you're using touch, it needs to be easy to understand for the users so they can quickly jump in and keep playing their games. But this is going to be a big loss for Xbox. From his credentials, everything that he has worked on, leaving now, especially when there's new stuff, like he said, is coming up in the future, they're going to really have to find somebody that's going to be able to fill his role and continue to do the great work that Xbox is doing with, I say, advancing the industry forward with innovative technologies and innovative things like the Xbox achievements, like Play Anywhere, like Xbox Game Pass, like all the backwards compatibility enhancements and so on. All right, jumping over here to Xbox publishing and Japan. As we know, Japan is still a place that Xbox is really trying to grow, increase their foothold. We're seeing more Japanese games come over to Xbox and onto Xbox Game Pass, and that's something they're going to have to continue to do, especially if they want to push cloud gaming and the Xbox in the Japanese market. But it looks like Xbox publishing is growing, and they're looking to hire people to help them grow. This comes via Matt Smith on Twitter, who works at Xbox Publishing producing games, and he tweets out, "My team at Xbox Publishing here in Japan is growing. We are working with top-class developers on truly groundbreaking product for Xbox. DMs are open, happy to answer any questions, current open roles." And then he lists all of the open roles. But you know what this starts triggering? What does he mean that they are working on a groundbreaking product for Xbox, seemingly out of Japan? Gets people thinking, what is this product? And the first thing that comes to mind is the one that we've been hearing about for the last year or so, and that is Kojima's game. In fact, Jeff Grubb even tweets about something down here that makes you think about that even more. He tweets out, "Tomorrow is in your hands," and that's a reference to Death Stranding. So that can mean one of two things. That can mean the Kojima thing, which that's my guess of what he's kind of insinuating here, or maybe today we're going to be getting some big announcement about some Japanese style game, some Japanese developer coming over to Xbox Game Pass. But it's just great to see that they are expanding, they're growing in Japan, so much so that they have a bunch of roles that they're hiring for, and it'll be very interesting to see what all of this means. Is it just going to be Kojima? Is it going to be more content and more games? Are they going to still try to get another Japanese studio in the future? All stuff that we will get answers to sometime soon. But if you are looking to work in Japan, you're somebody out there who wants to join this team, go check out Matt Smith on Twitter and check out all the rules that are available. And finally, to end things off, let's talk about this. This comes via the former PlayStation executive Jack Tretton talking about Call of Duty and the exclusivity of this game. As we know, Microsoft purchasing Activision Blizzard, and they have already pretty much said that this Call of Duty is staying on PlayStation for the foreseeable future. But Jack Tretton apparently thinks that 10 years ago, this would not have happened, and that the market and the competition and everything is completely different. He was speaking with a Game Informer, and he talks about how the industry has changed since 2014, saying, "I think back in the day when I was back at Sony and we were trying to establish this PlayStation brand, and Xbox came out and we're trying to compete with such a formidable company in Microsoft, it very much was win at the expense of the competition, counter what they're doing, block what they're doing. But I think the businesses have grown so big now that it isn't that way anymore." Now, I would argue that statement slightly in the sense that if you look at Nintendo and you look at Sony, they are still kind of in that mindset of trying to compete with the competition by blocking what they're doing, not working with them, not opening up as much as a company like Xbox, who, as we know, really got crossplay off the ground, got away of the console exclusivity, and PlayStation and Nintendo are still holding on to those things as a way to push forward with their brand and with their console to get people to jump in and play their games on their specific boxes, which is exact opposite really of what Xbox is doing with the big ecosystem, being able to play wherever you want. And we remember the resistance against crossplay from PlayStation specifically when Microsoft wanted to do that. We saw the documents from the Epic versus Apple case come out where it all had to do with money. They were afraid of losing money. They thought that they should be paid more because many people were playing on the PlayStation Network more so than other places. He continues on here saying the competition in the video game industry is not Nintendo versus Sony versus Xbox. It is video games as an entertainment form against watching TV, going to concerts, whatever other forms of entertainment you have. So the gaming industry is competing for people's time and mind share, and the more great entertainment experiences there are, the more that people in the video game business and the people that enjoy playing video games have to choose from. And that makes a ton of sense. You just look at the strategies of what they're trying to do with games as a service, both Xbox and PlayStation, and how for Xbox, they want to keep you entertained as much as possible by keeping your energy and time within their ecosystem. Xbox Game Pass is an incredible way to do that because they know if you're not at home and you want to play a game, you're going to easily be able to jump into their ecosystem through your phone. And they have lots of great multiplayer games as well. We see Halo make that transition to the games as a service to the season-based game, which it wasn't like that previously. All of that to get people to come in and spend more time within their video games. We hear about PlayStation trying to expand their games as a service. Purchasing Bungie, that's going to be a big thing for them. They know that they need to kind of expand out from just the one and done games, those single player narrative experiences where their attention is held for 10, 15, 20 hours and then it's gone. They want to be able to keep their attention for days and weeks. And that's why they're expanding out to games as a service. And it is versus watching other forms of content, listening to other forms of content. That's what video games is competing against. And the console wars that we still see today, like PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X and S, it's absolutely ridiculous because the console wars are no more. The industry has completely changed, and you can see here Jack Tretton acknowledging that with his comments. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out down the line. I personally believe Xbox is way ahead of PlayStation in terms of adjusting and being ready for the future of gaming and getting away from the console wars, from the console exclusivity. And that's why I think going forward, they are in a much better spot right now than PlayStation is, and PlayStation will need to continue to adjust. And we're starting to see that with PlayStation Plus, with their new tiers that are coming out, and with the purchase of Bungie. That's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of this stuff. Thoughts on the PlayStation ad network. Shadowrun Trilogy coming to Game Pass, plus all of the great games coming over in May that we already know about. Redfall, do you think it is going to be delayed? What do you think about Jack Tretton's thoughts on the video game industry and Chris Novak? How do you think his leaving Xbox will affect the company? If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, you enjoyed what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Bye.